Hey everyone, Okiya Omtatah if you're Kenyan. What comes to mind when you hear the name Okiya Omtatah? One for me at the moment is that I have a presidential candidate or a president that I will vote for in 2027. Two, the image that comes to mind is that of Okiya Omtatah. I think I see that it was taken in 2008 when he chained himself outside the security vigilance house. Remember that photo? Okay, here is the photo. So this time, Okiyah was protesting, and one of the things he was against was how the police were treating the citizens. So he chained himself as a way of demonstrating. Over the weekend, Busia Senator and human rights activist Okiya Omtatah made the announcement, or a Gazette notice came out saying that he has formed a committee or a team of research. It actually says he has formed a team to research his viability as a presidential candidate in the upcoming 2027 elections. So the team has a list of members that is on this list, as you can see. And the thing he said on his Twitter account, he says, "We are at a pivotal moment in our nation's history, and the call to serve has never been more urgent. After careful consideration and consultations with trusted advisors, community leaders, and citizens from all walks of life, I am pleased to announce the formation of a presidential exploratory committee. This committee will thoroughly assess the viability of my candidacy for the 2027 presidential election. The primary focus is to engage with the public, gather input on the most pressing challenges facing our nation, and determine how best to address these issues with bold and innovative leadership. The road ahead requires thoughtful preparation." That's why I think he formed the committee, and a lot of other things he said. So, and key to note are the people that are on this team. And one of the people that has attracted attention of the people, especially on the social media space, is none other than Hanifa, the noisemaker on Twitter, who we love for pushing for change and always doing what is good for community. So there's other members: Mary Kathomi, the chairperson; Charles Olekabaiku, the deputy; David Wakali, Victor Kipngetich, and Hanifa Aidan as the public relations media consultant. So hers is to manage relations with the public and coordinate with media. And there was a huge, after this post, there was a huge discussion online on the space, especially on Twitter, with people saying how Omtatah is a good candidate, and others coming to say that he's not the right candidate. Well, they have their reasons, but the question is, I don't think they have valid reasons to say that Omtatah is not qualified. If you ask me, this is a man who has fought for a lot of things about human rights in Kenya, a lot of cases that he's taken to court that have been for the public benefit. And so when you see such people coming out, then we have people who are opposing, then I think we have a problem as a country, and people, we need to rethink what we want as a nation. If indeed someone who has a clean record, even while serving his Busia people, there's nothing that has come up where he's been involved in any scandal, then we are fighting such a person, then I think as Kenyans, we need to do better. If we really want to see change in this country, then we need to think of what we want. We need to think and imagine of the nation that we can have if indeed we put the right people in the right places. So Omtatah is widely known for his numerous court victories against the government and the petitions that he has often, that have often ended up favoring the public. And he's been a figure of interest to a lot of people. That's why even when he announced this, a lot of conversations came up. So, however, his presidential bid may face significant hurdles as it is, and according to regulations from the Registrar of Political Parties, or RPP, it says that a presidential candidate must hold a degree from a recognized university. As it is, I'm not sure he holds a degree because from the parliamentary website, the highest level of education indicates that he holds a diploma from the Kenya Polytechnic in mechanical engineering. So I don't know whether that's something that will be a hurdle for his presidency. However, the Constitution under Article 137 does not specify educational requirements for presidential candidates. So it remains unclear whether the ORPP will prioritize the Constitution, which is supreme, or it will come up with, they will enforce their own educational criteria when Omtatah goes for clearance. But personally, I believe the Constitution is our guiding book. So somehow, even if ORPP has these regulations, I want to believe the Constitution is supreme. So hopefully, that is what we will go for. Another key question is, previously Kenya has been voting on blocks based on different tribal politics has played a big card in this country, and we all know it. And as it is, Omtatah is from Busia, he's a senator, and as we have known it, he's not been like a popular politician across the country. So he has a lot of work to convince, if people indeed are convinced to go to vote on issue-based politics, then he will have it easy. However, if we still have to convince people, like they keep saying, there's the Mount Kenya block, there's the Western, there's the Coast people, there's I don't know who, all these things. If he has to work around that in terms of politics, then it means he has to convince a lot of people across the board to, get on his team and work with him, or him working with different people to have the numbers. Because as it is in Kenya, I don't think we have a candidate who can really stand by themselves and win alone. In politics, it is even good to work with your enemy if your enemy will help you beat. If your enemy is the enemy of your enemy, it's easier to collaborate and win an election. And we've seen it. Most of this have been through coalitions. So I don't know who Omtatah is looking to work with if he decides to officially make it official that he's running, but it will be very good for him to incorporate other people across board and across the nation so that it's easier for him to move. And as young people, I know we are really agitated and we are agitating for change and we're actually fighting for that change, but we need to be realistic in politics. You cannot convince everyone that Omtatah is the right guy. So we have to know if indeed we decided to take the Omtatah direction, then who do we work with? Because we have to look at all these people that we can work with in the political sector to garner numbers. And that's the only way then we are able to bring numbers, big numbers together that can actually lead us to, having an Omtatah presidency. So Omtatah is not a lawyer by profession, even though I think he's been one of the most, he's probably in Kenya, he's a candidate, he's the one person who's been in court more times than even the lawyers and the judges in this country, because he's taken so many cases to court that have been fighting for justice and basically human rights. So many see him as a public defender, number one, and he's filed some of the biggest public interest cases. Some of the notable cases that you remember on the housing levy, if you remember, it was in court the other day. There was a case on fuel levy, and he actually won an 8-year-long court battle to recover over 800 acres of land, that government land in Busia County. This, I think, was either last year or last year but one. So these are some of the things that Omtatah has handled. So his quest for a just society has seen him get into trouble with law enforcers oftentimes. And he's been beaten, he's been locked up in cells several times, and he's even shared threats on his life several times. And if you remember last year, in 2023, they were at an event with President Ruto, and this was during the housing levy issue. So he came, he raised an issue and said that his life was under threat. And this, at the same event, is where President Ruto spoke up and said that he was given, when he was sworn in, he was given a sword. And that sword was not for cutting vegetables, it was to protect. So that is what Omtatah interpreted as a threat to his life, like the president has threatened to, kill him, quote unquote. I'm not just, this is word on the street, and this is what Omtatah was claiming. So these are some of the issues that he's faced while fighting for rights of fellow Kenyans. In 2012, he actually lost 4 of Incis's teeth after an attack that was blamed on goons. So people basically just hire goons to attack someone because they do not agree with what he stands for. And during the attack, he was also left with a cut. I'm sure if you've seen his image, you've seen on the face he has a cut. So that cut was obtained during that time when he was attacked in 2012. In April 2024, his rural home in Busia came under attack from unknown people again. And one of his relatives, I think it's the sister-in-law, was actually injured. And this time it became so serious such that now senators started saying, people should be allowed to express themselves because there's a freedom of speech in this country, and they actually pushed that to ensure that that Okiyah is protected. So those are some of the issues that he has faced. And when asked why he believes he keeps fighting despite all these issues that he faces, Omtatah says that his biggest conviction is that we must have the rule of law, especially for a constitutional democracy. Remember, of course, Kenya is a constitutional democracy. We have the 2010 constitution that brought in so many other rights that were not enjoyed before. And therefore, we must have total fidelity to the constitution if indeed we are to have a country that we want, and not just to have the laws, that the laws must be followed by all. He believes that the rule of law is the will of God, and if this country must go forward as I want it to go, then we have to follow the law. So Omtatah studied at St. Paul's High School in Bungoma, and that's where he met, during his studies, he met some Catholic priests who somehow, he says, convinced him to join seminary. He wanted to be a Catholic priest. So after Form 4, he actually was called to join the University of Nairobi to study BCom, but after that opportunity was given to him, he said he didn't want to pursue that course, and therefore he declined and decided to join it's called St. Augustine School in Mabanga, which is still in Bungoma County, where he took up a course in philosophy. So when you want to become a priest, this is where you start. So he was officially going to be a priest, and he had even started off to study philosophy. However, during his studies, he started developing issues, epileptic issues, where, epilepsy, where you keep fainting oftentimes. So he developed that condition, and unfortunately, then he was told, it became so serious that he was told by a fellow, I think, priest from the institution, that he cannot make it to be a priest, because what would happen if he suffered an epileptic attack amid a mass service, So from that, then it was so bad that he could not get through his training on priesthood. And after that, he went to, while playing football with a friend of his, he suffered epilepsy again. And then that friend told Omtatah that his father had some organic treatment, which if he took, he would get healed of epilepsy. So Omtatah tried the medication. Luckily, he recovered. But then, for you to go back to seminary, the medics have to, the way our African medication, quote unquote, is not mainstream, like it's not certified in the mainstream big pharma sector. So because they couldn't certify the medication that he took, and he couldn't take any medical records to the institution and tell them, fine, now I'm healed, I can go back to priesthood. Then what happened is he decided they wouldn't allow him to go back. So he ended up looking for alternatives, because now he can't go back to priesthood. So at that point is when now he decided, you know what, let me just go and study mechanical engineering. And that's why he joined Kenya Polytechnic, where he now studied, he was doing a diploma in mechanical engineering. So during his period when he was training as a mechanical engineer, the target was to work on the Gen Z. Sit down, let me educate you a bit actually. So Kenya had a car that was called Nyayo car in the, I think, late 80s, early 90s. And when he was studying in the late 80s, he was targeting that this Nyayo car that the former President Moi had introduced, that he would be part of he would work on this project. And this project was so big because they knew the way actually it had started, Kenya would work on the designs and other things that they were trained on, not necessarily him ending up as a hands-on mechanic, but as a designer. So when Nyayo car collapsed in Kenya, he saw that all his training wasn't going to be to end up in what he wanted, that is in car design, because again, in Kenya, as it is, we are not designing cars, we just do we are importing, as big as we are. So after that, he decided, you know what, I cannot go be a mechanic because that's not what I want to be. So now that's how he ended up swerving towards the sector of human rights defense. However, he says he still keeps his dreams alive of becoming a priest, but now I don't think that is possible, because he also says anyway The dream is alive, but he knows he cannot be allowed because, you know, he's married, he has a wife and 4 children, and unfortunately in 2020 he lost the daughter to acute malaria. But he makes a joke and says his desire to join priesthood would take the intervention of the Pope, because, you know, the Catholic priests don't get married. So if he's married with 4 kids, that's a dream that's well dead. Anyway, that's the story of Omtatah, and as someone who believes in people who fight for justice with a clean slate, I personally believe Omtatah is one of the few Kenyans who stand for what is right, who are true to the cause, and who has nothing, like he's not a man interested in corruption or in stealing. So if we put this man in that position of power, I believe Omtatah would change Kenya. And for the committee, Hanifa and your team that have been tasked with this task of, you know, doing the groundwork just to check if indeed Kenyans want him to run as president, just go and tell him, we actually want him to run. We are ready to support him in all ways that we can. And fellow Kenyans, it is time we support someone who has the interests of the country at heart. We need to get out of that thing of our mtu wetu. We have seen what mtu wetu has done. If you have not seen, I suppose you're a visitor in Kenya. And if you are visiting, maybe hang around for 2-3 days, then you will understand why we are saying we need change. And Okiya Omtatah would be one of the key people that would bring change to this country. All he needs is to unite with other people that believe in the cause, young people. The moment IEBC, we have the commissioners elected and we have the sites open, please go register, get your voting card, walk with that as your life. You know, like every freaking day of your life, have that voting card with you, walk with it, and when 2027 come, that is your weapon for change. We've been demonstrating because we want change. Change does not come in any other means in a democratic country that is run by politics. Laws are made by politicians or members of parliament who are politicians. If you want change, make sure you register to vote, and on the day of the voting, please go and vote for people like Omtatah, who indeed have the heart of Kenya at heart, yeah? Thank you very much for watching. Share with us in the comments section what you feel about Omtatah, and if indeed you feel that he's someone who can lead Kenya in the right direction, yeah? Let's have a conversation there. We'll catch you on the next episodes.